Greetings, everybody. Welcome to High Performance. This is me, Michael Tepotabani, your host for the High Performance Show. If you recall very well, the first time when I launched the first video of High Performance, I promised you that this show's intention is not only to just inspire you or motivate you, but to bring education. And I then quoted my favorite teacher, Jim Rohn, when he said that, education is more important than motivation, because if you motivate an idiot, then you have a motivated idiot, and that's not a good place to be in. So today we are making sure that we are bringing that educational part of what we promised you. Buckle up, because of the person that I have today on the show is one of the seasoned thinkers that I've ever had the privilege to meet in my life. The person that we are bringing you today, just to be safe, have a notepad, because there'll be some notes that you need to be taking. And then try to have a dictionary handy, because you might drop some few words that will need you to refer to your lexicon or to your dictionary. Who I have today on the show is none other but a good brother of mine, Mqondisi Gumede, the founder and the CEO of the OMG. I'm not going to tell you what it stands for. I don't want people to be lazy. I want people to go look it up and then find out what does the OMG stand for. So thank you so much, my brother, for availing yourself, for being part of this for this show. And I think it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be amazing. So welcome to the show, to the High Performance.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. Thank you so much. So that was very short. I thought he was going to say, pleasure to be here. And then, like many things. But anyway, he was as short and brief. So, but thank you so much for being here on the High Performance Show, like I said. So this High Performance, Mqondisi, and then when I gave you a brief, I told you that our intention is to ensure that we help our viewers out there to gain insights, to gain knowledge of how the world works. And it can be how the world works from a business side of things. It can be from whatever career choice or endeavors that they choose in their lives. And then we believe that in high performance that, there are certain qualities that a person should have in order for them to be a high performer, irrespective of the industry that they operate in. And then the reason why we opted to have you here today is because we'd want you to be our insights guy, the person that we talk to when it comes to actually getting deep into what makes up these people that we call high performers. And then I believe, since this is one of the first shows, what I think we should do, we should go on a definition level. So maybe Mqondisi would help us, and maybe, in his own words, what is it that he thinks high performers are, or for people to have an exceptional, performance in what they do, what are the qualities and what are the things that they should be thinking about. So in your honest opinion, what do you think is high performance, or what are high performers?
Yeah, so I think high performers are people who gain an outcome that's far greater than the average. And I think that's an important point to make. It's always relative to something. And I think that something is what is average. And I think that what you'll find in most endeavors is that most people, the people who are really good at something, are much better at the people in the middle. So you can see this in all walks of life. The people who have more money than other people have multiples the amount of money as the average person will have. So everyone's familiar with the idea of billionaires, but it is many, many times more than the person in the average. So this is not someone who's just slightly better. These are the people who are at the top of their game, who are the people who are at the top of the heap, whatever heap they choose it to be. And so I think, I'm not sure, you might be a football guy.
Sure.
You will have seen that trying to do what Lionel Messi does on a Saturday is also extremely, it's leaps and bounds ahead of what the average football player can do. And 100%. So I think that's, high performance the way that I think about it.
I love that explanation, because of what you're saying is that it's above average, right? It's not just a person who's just good at what they do, but it's over and above, and then also, like, I don't know if I'm correct to assume that being a high performer, from the definition that you have given, it is that it's difficult to ignore what that person is actually capable of doing. Like you made an example of Lionel Messi, for instance. It's difficult to ignore that the man is amazing.
Yeah.
So am I correct to assume that?
I would actually maybe paraphrase it this way.
Sure.
Normally, when you think of average, someone thinks of 50 out of 100 in a test, right? And above average is 51. So I don't want people to have that idea. So what I'd like to do is to think of a bell curve, all right?
Okay.
So what happens is the weakest people are here, the average is up here, and the strongest people on the side. So if you can think of a curve for me, right? What happens is, even when things are normally average, really where you get most of the action is at the extremes.
Wow.
Okay, so let me give you an example. If you were to look at the differences personality-wise between male and female, actually men and women are much more similar than they are different. Yep, so it's nothing there to write home about. But when you look at the extremes, what you start to find is that if we look at something like aggression, in the center, it's there or thereabouts. But at the edges, you'll find that with the 1 in 100 most aggressive person in society,
You'll be amazing.
all of them are men.
Amen, yeah.
Which is why prison populations look the way they do, because there are probably 100,000 men for every, say, 1,000 women. So what that does, that it shows you the effect, maybe in a better image about what the edges look like, as opposed to what the averages look like. So the differences are, they're large and they are very pronounced. And so that's what I mean by,
I feel you.
The actions at the tails, you know what I mean? It's not,
It's not in the middle. Yeah. Okay, I get that. So, but what do you think are the qualities that creates such?
Yeah, so sure.
How would you like what are the qualities that you would attribute to high performance?
Yeah.
Now you've defined it, yes. And then now, what are the qualities that you would say you would attribute to that?
Yeah, there are many of them.
Sure.
There are many of them.
I can imagine that for sure.
I think the ones that are top of mind is the fact that those people are defined by a driving purpose, vision, something that they're going after. Okay, there's something that has to pull you to get all of this intrinsic potential and ability that's in you out of you. Okay, so I think that's the first thing. Without that, there are very many brilliant people who never get the extractive power of moving towards a vision or moving towards a purpose or a goal that animates them. So I think that's the first thing.
Yeah.
There are many people who are brilliant, but the people who become high performance are always drawn by this thing. All right, and it's a very important thing. And that's why they're able to share it so clearly. And that's why they're able to articulate it, because they see something that other people don't see. And they share it with them, and other people want to jump in and collaborate and push them towards it. And they want the future that the person is talking about. They want the things that those people are seeing in their mind's eye and are working every day to bring into our tangible reality. So that's one thing for sure. All right. And you'll see it even in sports people. Sports people visualize a lot. You know what I mean? So before they take a free kick, they'll think about what exactly it is that they're trying to bring out onto the highlights reel for Super Sport that evening. You know what I mean? Is it good? Is it a free kick? So you need to curl over the wall and dip and bend before the goalkeeper gets to it.
Very calculative,
Yeah. Not only that, people speak in the future tense. So every leader, and whether they're well-spoken or not, charismatic or not, they have a vision of the future, which they will articulate to other people, and other people arrive and say, right, we're going with you, we're pushing you, we're adding our resources, we're doing what it takes. But that vision which you outline, the thing that's pulling you, is the thing that I also want, and therefore people join them. So very important. There's a higher order, meaningful, pulling goal, purpose, or vision. Okay, so that's
I get it.
It's 100% the case. I've never met anybody who was brilliant by mistake.
Yeah.
I've never met somebody who was brilliant being aimless. And I mean, that's a technical thing, right? Because
Yeah.
you can find a million ways to fail, but there are very few ways to succeed. And so you're not going to stumble on that,
Yeah,
and it's
by
not going to
accident.
happen by accident. Okay, so I think
I get that.
that's the first one. I think the second one is a real self-awareness. And by self-awareness, I mean really self-aware. I think understanding deeply and clearly what it is that you are capable of, what goals and what strengths that you have, what weaknesses you have, what are the things that you need to also have, but not in a arrogant way where you say to yourself, look, I can do anything.
Yeah.
Not in a fake humility where it's like, oh, I'm just nobody, I can't do anything. It takes a while to understand yourself to the place where you understand clearly and deeply what it is that you have to offer and what it is that you still need in relation to this goal that you have. So I think those are the two things, right? Because no matter how much you may want to be Lionel Messi,
Yes.
if you don't exhibit those qualities, those attributes, it's important for you to know that for yourself, because then you can get busy with what it is that you have Lionel Messi level talent at. And that's an important thing. And so lots of people need to get to this level of self-awareness, this like kind of deeply searching knowledge of who they are, what they have to offer, so that they can operate in the correct field.
I get you.
So I think those are two kind of major themes, but
yeah, that's very important. Like, because of the 2 points that you've made, if you think about it, this can be like a show on them own, if you think about it, Mko. Because let's talk about like the first one that you mentioned about vision, right? So in other words, am I correct to assume that it's almost impossible to apply yourself at the level that a high performer would if you don't have a foresight, one, two, or a vision, a compelling vision about how you wish your future to turn out? So are we saying that, like having that foresight, having that vision is one of the things that push these people to kind of apply themselves in that way? By applying themselves, it is like they do the necessary practices that they need to do, the necessary training that they need to do, read the books that they need to read, see or watch their relationships closely, like anything and everything that needs to be done in order for them to perform at that level. It's almost impossible for you to do that, all that work, without having that foresight like a future that is pulling you or that is calling you.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I mean, if you're not trying to build a new reality, then it's almost impossible to do something great. Why would you do it?
What's the point? Yeah.
Yeah, and also there are some things that are pretty great at the moment. You know what I mean? So, to sit there in an age where people are using horse-drawn carriages and go, we need an automobile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a step change. You know what I mean? To look at that and go, maybe they need to be electric, not gasoline. That's a step change. There are all of these really important visions that you have that you need in order to change the things for the better. And that's very specific. It's not general. It's like, I just want things to be better.
It's a very specific thing.
There are too many things within the ambit of the possibility to improve for you to do anything. It's got to be specific, and it's got to be something that really guides you and speaks to you.
100%. So let's delve slightly into some of the work that you do at the OMG. If you check like your taglines, it goes like the uncommon sense, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
Right. So the uncommon, like, am I correct? Is it the uncommon?
Yeah, uncommon sense.
Yeah, the uncommon sense. So the sense that is not common.
Indeed.
Right. Because of you are talking about the uncommon sense from the perspective of the insights that you provide the businesses that you serve with.
Yeah.
Right. You coming up with the solutions and then also opening up opportunities for them, so on and so forth. But you're saying that is uncommon.
Yeah.
How so? Like, what does that mean in the first place, actually? Because it's uncommon for somebody to say sense is uncommon. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that sense is uncommon, but I'm saying that the sense that we provide is uncommon.
Ah.
It's
The insights you provide.
the insights we
Yes.
provide are uncommon.
Got
And
you.
I think there have been a number of things. Maybe there's developed a situation in the world where what we think matters has been defined as matter. So
Oh,
things we
concrete.
can touch, things we can. So if you think carefully about the wordplay of matter and matters, I think that it's no mistake actually that what people think matters is in actual matter. All right. And I think that that's, you could look at it maybe in the Western world over 500 years, the Enlightenment has, done a few things to advance scientific knowledge. And what that's meant is that people can manipulate our physical environment to incredible effect. You know what I mean? We sit here with electrical lights. Not possible 500 years ago. What's that? It's a manipulation of, electricity and magnetism, right? Which continues to, pay rich dividends for us. It heats us up when we're cold. It cools us down when we're hot. And a whole range of other things which are physical. These are tangible, right? And you can hold them and store. And it's an amazing thing. And there are many people in the world today who are good at, manipulating our physical environment. And we celebrate them and we reward them and we love them. And that's great.
Sure.
However, there are a few things that you need to think about. Many of our physical manipulations require an incredible amount of money. All right.
They're resource intense, yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, to transmit the electricity that I'm talking about, you need metals.
Yeah.
Metals are mined.
Yes.
The mining, of course, you know what I mean, means that not only is there digging, blasting, safety, and that type of thing, there are logistics. Once you've done logistics, you need to make them into alloys. Once you've made them into alloys and you've smelted them or beneficiated them in some way, then you need to, create the wire. Then you need to transport that. Then you need to lay that. And then you need to provide transmission infrastructure. And all of a sudden, what we start to see is that the resource intensivity of our ability to manipulate the physical world comes at a cost, okay? And today, there's still a disparity in that cost. If you take a photograph of the Earth at night, you'll see that the developed world has lights, and then the developing world, not as many lights. It's an interesting, it shows that disparity, right? The second thing is that even with the developed world, there's a realization in the developed world now that maybe digging up all of our resources and being carbon intensive and doing the mining and all of those types of things may not be the best thing for the planet.
Got you.
And so now everyone's going, wow, we've manipulated our physical environment so well, perhaps we shouldn't have done it the way that we did or shouldn't have done it at all. And now people are trying to go back to a way in which we're not actually manipulating our physical environment the way that we are. All right. So now all of a sudden you get charged a lot more for an organic mango than the non-organic type. It says going backwards or advancing backwards is actually so valuable that we're going to charge you more.
So true.
And so it's a weird advancement, right? And so one of the things that we've seen is that I think, and this is the key insight that we have at the OMG, is that the technicalities have overrun the intangibles, all right?
Wow.
So the way in which you can solve problems is not only in the scientific, the engineering, and the tangible, all right? There are other insights that you can apply, right?
The intangibles.
The intangibles, which also give you the same outcome. So I'll give you a story. Maybe many of your viewers are familiar with the TED platform. There's a very famous TED speaker. His name is Rory Sutherland. He got famous for making the following observation. He said, there's a train that runs between France and the UK. It's called a Eurostar. It's a high-speed train. It gets launched. No sooner is it launched, people say we want it faster. Engineering firms are asked, how can you make it faster? And they said, look, we can make it 40 kilometers per hour faster. And it will cost 6 billion euros.
Wow. To implement that speed.
Yeah, the speed improvements, right? Okay. Manipulate our physical world, increase the engineering, increase the way in which we have tweaked the matter in order to provide this desire. And he says, well, look, if he had been given that problem, what he would have done is he would have gotten the world's best male and female supermodels. He would have gotten them to walk up and down the train and pour free champagne for everybody. Not only
Wow,
would people have stopped asking for the train to be sped up, they might have asked for the train to be slowed down. And what's more, it would have probably delivered billions and billions and billions in change. What he's trying to highlight in that story, and I use it because it's possibly the shortest story I can, is that there are ways to approach things by understanding the intangible drivers of human beings primarily, and you don't need to actually look at the physical matter answers that is our tendency, particularly in South Africa, but also in other markets.
Wow.
So I hope that gives you a sense of what we do, but this is what we're trying to do.
I'm getting that, yeah.
The benefits are manifold. Number one, we say that our solutions are capital light. This does not mean that they won't cost you anything, but in the Rory Sutherland example, instead of 6 billion euros, it probably costs 600 million euros. You know what I mean? Who wouldn't, do with 5.6 billion euros in change?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So these are the types of things that we bring to our clients. I think it's especially important now because, after COVID, there are a few balance sheets that don't look like they used to. Some, of course, look amazing. So I'm not saying that everyone has struggled. You know what I mean? There are lots of people, that you need to visit, right? And go have drinks at their house because, their bonuses have doubled. So there are those people. But there's also a great range of businesses that are needing these capital light interventions. And when it is capital light, also what it tells you is that it's possibly resource light. And resource light is in line with all of the desires of the world at the moment, which is be kinder to our planet, be kinder to people, be more accessible. The whole inequality thing is like, you have something, I don't have something. If we can leverage an intangible that sits between both of us, it means that it excludes less people.
Yes.
Yeah, because
there's more inclusivity.
Yeah, because there are lots of people, right, with capital who have the means to carry on in this way. But if you don't have capital, what do? And we need to answer that question in greater and greater efficacy, right? Because inequality is an increasingly untenable situation in the world.
Got you.
So I think that's why our solutions are so relevant for what it is that businesses and indeed everybody else needs today.
That's an amazing example you gave, MQ, because what you are, like, this is how I understood Mqondisi, guys. And then you'll correct me if I understood you incorrectly. So there are other problems that we are solving. Like the problems might be physical, how they look, but there are intangible ways of actually solving those specific problems. And then those intangible ways, you'll find out that they are not that resource intense, number one. Number two is that from a capital standpoint, they are lighter than the ones that you would have deployed that are more physical. Yeah. Did I understand you correctly?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. And just I think it's a fair summary, but I'll also complete it by saying that we're in a situation in the world where we need to be lighter on matter. And
exactly.
And we need to be mining more the mind over matter. And I think we're there for the mind over matter. And we live in a society where we're struggling to come to terms with just how much we've manipulated matter. So I think that's where we play. It's a meta play that says there is mind that is over this matter. So how can you be intentional about how to use the mind? That,
I understand what you mean, yeah.
That exists.
No, I get you 100%. So there's this, in one of the things that I do, so the company that I was working with at the time, they wanted to buy new softwares and new tools and whatnot because they thought they were falling slightly behind, of the 4IR rigging and whatnot. And then what we realized is that they were not able to, they were underusing what they already had because the minds of the people who were in that organization, one, they were not well trained. Two, is that they were not aware of the power of the things that they already had. So which means now, so the solution was that we needed a way we can inform the people of that organization and then show them the power of the things that they already had without having to actually deploy or buy or new machinery and new tools and whatnot. And which I think to a certain extent, which does not cover your explanation, in its entirety, but I think to a certain extent, it's one of the examples to say that can we look into the problems that we have in a mind over matter type of take a mind over matter approach. Yeah, so that's one of the things. So with the OMG, so the companies that you work with, and then the people that you have gotten the privilege to consult with and whatnot, would you say that the awareness you spoke about, MQ, the awareness you spoke about when we're talking about the qualities that high performance should have, do you think the awareness that you spoke about it's one of the most important things that you would attribute some of the successes that these people have in their businesses?
Look, without doubt. I mean, so one of the things which we're privileged to have at the OMG is we have some pretty incredible clients. And these are clients that are generally at the top of their game, like genuinely in by every measure.
They know what they're doing, yeah.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. This is not a situation where people are grasping for they are very clear about the future that they want to bring about. All right, so I think that's the thing. You know what I mean? So all of them can articulate it clearly. They see it, it's worthwhile, and they have resources for that reason. Not to give them resources, right? If they were just like, I don't know, let's see, whichever way the wind blows. These are not these people. They're very, very clear.
Yeah.
They go to the stock market and people go, right, we'll commit some capital because we know that what you're doing is worthwhile and you will return money to us. We also trust the way you will do it. So these, when I say captains of industry, I really mean it. These are people who are on a mission, on a path, they're going somewhere, 100% visible and seeable.
There's a clarity of intent, yeah.
And then also the thing is, why would they invite someone like me, right, and our team to help them think through things if they weren't being self-aware to the point of going, we can see some things a different way, So 100% visible in all of them without exception. They are seeing this reality that they want to create. And they also see how someone like me, the people in our team, how they might contribute to this endeavor that they have. Without those two things, it's not possible. Our solutions are not possible, and so...
I get you.
It's 100% in evidence.
Makes sense. So, okay, so in our what we have chat now, our show has not, it has been around for roughly less than 2 months.
Okay.
Right. So less than 2 months. Yeah, I'm actually correct. So we've been around for about 7 weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I'll calculate well again, but but by checking the audience of the audience we have on our show, it's a mixture of different people.
Sure.
we have those other ones who are just finished varsity. Someone just started a business and nothing is working out. We have someone who has been running a business and then they just can't leap. We have someone who is a manager somewhere and then try to build a team, try to be a good leader. Things are just not working out.
Yeah.
So what I would like you to contribute to this, to some of those people. So let's talk first with this guy who just started a business. He's from Hamashashani or somewhere else,
Okay.
Right? Whereby, they're not 100% connected to the whole world like we are. Even if they are, but they are doing that with so many limitations, to a certain extent. And then, so this guy, he's watching this now. He wants to know that, okay, what is it that I need to do now? Because Mqondisi spoke about awareness. He spoke about vision. How can I shape that? Be aware of course, Mqondisi is talking about awareness, self-awareness, What are the things I should be, as a person, as an individual who's starting this thing, should be aware of, in order for me to actually, get the success that I probably envision?
Yeah, well, I think there are levels to the question.
Yeah.
So maybe let's start off with the
It's
most
not
basic.
I think it's a...
Yeah,
it's
so I think let's start with the basics.
Sure,
Maybe that
thanks,
will be helpful. Is that I think where you're concerned, one of the best things to ask yourself is, what am I deeply passionate about? Like really deeply. Like, what would I do if I had all the money in the world? If I had all the money in the world, what would I do?
Yes.
And what would I also do if I had no money in the world? That generally will give you a sense, right?
Wait. What would I do if I had all the money in the world? And what would I do if I had
No money in the world. Yep.
Okay,
So,
that's a good one.
Yeah.
I always think about the first one only. I never thought about what would I do if I had no money in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you can genuinely see that, right? So everyone has got the stereotype of this artist, right, who's starving. Plays the guitar or whatever it is, or does painting or whatever it is.
Sure.
Many of those people in a situation, they have no money, and yet they have to pour themselves into the painting or playing the guitar for its own sake. It's not because it's rewarding.
True.
All right.
True.
Then there are some people who have all the money in the world and they would still paint. There are lots of billionaires who are like, look at my art, right? So it gives you a sense of what you're deeply passionate about. All right. There are other ways to find it, and you know what I mean. There are many shows about it, but I think that's a good enough guide to get going. The second thing is, what do I think I could be the best in the world at? Not like amongst the things. If I had to design a competition where I could rig it for me to win. For me to win. Sure. What would that competition be? And what would be the pursuit, right?
Yeah.
Like I can tell you for sure, if you had to put me in a competition about right, what capital light ways could you produce to make commercial value accrue to businesses? I'm joining that competition. You know what I mean? There are 55, there are 55 things that, I have over many people that I know, right? That's how I would rig that contest. That's the game that I would play.
Yeah.
And we could play that literally all day and all night. And also, not only that, I get better at it every day, every single day, right? It's a problem that calls out to me. So I see it everywhere. I see it in lifts, I see it in hotels, I see it in cars, I see it in planes, I see it in trains. It's always everywhere. So the rate at which I accumulate more and more ability, more and more knowledge, I read that just because I read that. When I try and relax, that's what I relax doing. When I try and work, that's what I work doing, right?
Gotcha.
The ability that somebody else, right, who plays football could accumulate it at the same rate is very minimal. It's minimal,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
All right?
It's a whole different boat, yeah.
Just like, the number of free kicks that I can take against David Beckham is also like, it's like, it's just, I'm just not that committed to that problem. You know what I mean?
It's just not...
It's just not a problem that speaks to me, right? And so that's what other people need to do. So what am I deeply passionate about, all right? And the reason why I'm deeply passionate about this, that I've been to places in the world, right? And it happens everywhere to me because, again, like this is the problem that calls out to me, is that, the material is the same. Yeah, the material is the same. So, for example, I'm on holiday, and on this side I'm looking at Stellenbosch, and on this side I'm looking at Khayelitsha, and I'm like, but the land is 100% identical. Like there's a continuum. There's no geological difference here.
Got you.
The road is also, the same road. And the separation, right, has got to do with attributes that are more than tangible.
Okay.
Yep. So, what causes that disparity, right? And it's fine to be able to know how to cause it, but how do you change it? Because there's one thing about being able to diagnose a problem. I think lots of people, whether there's a misdiagnosis or not, people are confident in their diagnosis. So let's leave that for what it is. But when you go, fine, I hear your diagnosis. What's the solution?
Yeah.
That's
what are we going to do about this?
That's even harder, right?
What are we gonna do about
I'm deeply passionate about it because, you can see lots of people, right? You can see countries, you can see cities, you can see all of those with nothing or less than what we have. And they're able to think in a way that causes them to arrive in the objective reality in a different outcome. So South Africa, of course, is struggling with a whole range of things, right?
Sure.
But we sometimes, we talk as though it's exceptional. It only happens here. No one's ever solved it. You know what I mean? So got a high unemployment rate.
Yeah.
All right.
You're not the first ones to have.
They've been higher unemployment rates.
Yeah.
But people
Throughout the
deal
whole
with it,
world.
and in 10 years, it's gone. 27 years later, for us, it's not gone.
Yeah.
There's a contrast job to be done there very easily about what did they do that we're not doing? And what did they do, what were they willing to do that we're not willing to do? It's a simple thing,
Got you.
And that's why, for example, a lot of our work is in economics. Because I can tell you why it is that, Germany gets destroyed and goes, gets built up, gets destroyed and gets built up, gets
again.
destroyed and gets built up. Why the fastest rate of economic growth happened in post-war Japan. Just think about that, all right?
Yes.
So Japan is sitting there in 1939, they have this level of income. They have 2 atomic bombs dropped on them in 1945, flattened 2 cities. I'm not sure if it flattens 2 cities. Yeah. 11 years later, they have a higher income than 1939. 11 years later.
More than they did before.
More than they had before the war. Just think about that.
Jeez.
And 27 years later, we're like,
oh my goodness.
Higher. So, and this is what I'm saying, that this problem calls out to me like everywhere. You know what I mean?
I see what you mean.
Germans come together in the 1880s and they're like, right, we're going to do this thing. By 1914, they're ready to bully the world. They go into World War I, they lose, they get crushed. 1919, they signed something called the Treaty of Versailles, where it's like, you must pay everybody everything, reparations all the time. They're so poor, their money means nothing. Stories are like, if they have billions of Deutschmarks in a wheelbarrow, people will steal the wheelbarrow, not the Deutschmark. And there's lots of those types of stories to illustrate the point. But from nothing in 1919, again in 1939, they're ready to bully the world again. Just think about that. Just think about that logically.
Just after they lost the World War I,
Yeah. All right. But then what happens is they got overrun on 3 sides. So if you go to Berlin, they're like, well, the city is not rich in history because it got overrun. So there are very few artifacts there. It's a very new city, right?
Because it was destroyed.
But the Soviets arrived, they blow up things. The Americans still arrived with the British and that type of thing. People are going up, the bottom of Italy into Germany, right? And it's, again, 20 years later, the Germans are borrowing to the rest of Europe. It's like, today, Germany's a powerhouse again. What can they do 3 times over that we can't seem to do with, like, we have an embarrassment of riches. It's embarrassing in the literal sense, yeah?
Sure.
Us and Gabon have 80% of the manganese resources in the world.
Yep.
Us, Zimbabwe, and Russia have got about 85% of platinum group metals reserves, right?
Wow.
So just look at OPEC, right? There'll be an OPEC meeting where they will come together and then tell you how much you're going to pay for petrol.
Yeah.
I'm just like, just think, just see what's happening at OPEC and see what's not happening with South Africa and Gabon and see what's not happening between South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Russia. I'm just saying, somewhere in there is a clue. Yeah. Right?
Why can't we see that?
These are all just methods of thought that allow OPEC countries to look the way they do, or at least the predominant countries in OPEC look the way they do, and for our country to look the way it does. Yep.
Yeah.
And that all starts in the mind part, not in the matter part, because we are much better off than countries that are richer than us.
Wow.
It's embarrassing. Think about it. Think about it this way. The DRC is like, the wealth is like enough already. It's embarrassing. Like,
I get what you're saying, yeah.
And yet there are countries with nothing. And think about Singapore, shame. It's got nothing. It's got like a bay. 720 square kilometers of land.
Yeah, but they're doing a whole lot better.
But everyone's got $100,000 GDP per capita. Just think about it. Just like, what's going on there?
Tough team, yeah.
All right. So it shows you clearly, very clearly, that where we need to be focusing is not the matter part.
Got you.
Yeah.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I get you. I get you.
But let's go back to your question, maybe.
No.
So
I know.
deeply passionate about.
Yeah, deeply
what you
passionate
can
about.
be best in the world at,
Yeah.
and then from there, you also need to decide what drives my economic engine. So what are the things that I can do to earn money, right? So that concept. Sure, I need to be vigilant to give reference material for these concepts so that people can also go and look for them. So you can find those in Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. He'll talk a lot about that.
What a great book, by the way.
Yeah, so you can start there. I think in terms of a vision, I think one of the things is, like I was talking about earlier, the problem that speaks to you, the problem that you see everywhere, the problem that bothers you. You know what I mean? That's the that is a clue.
That's a clue.
There are millions of problems in the world, but the one that you see everywhere, the one that speaks to you, that's calling out to you. Listen to that, because chances are, if you do those first three questions and you go, what problem speaks to me all the time? Then you'll find that those two things will draw you closer to where you need to be.
Where you need to be. I love that.
Please don't do this. People who make money have football teams, or I want to just like put that aside for now. Like, you know what I mean? Those correlate to just like do those things.
Just park it for now.
Yeah, park those things. Do those things. And those two things coming together, that tension is where you need to be, and that's how I would say you need to fashion your business. And you've got all of those cliches about you never work another day in your life and that type of thing.
So solve problems you care about.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I'm not suffering Monday to Friday. You know what I mean? I'm like, give me the problem. If there's I promise you, I will get to a place where there is a capital light insight that's based in the intangibles, that is something that you can do in the realm of thought that will elevate you amongst other people who have more resources than you do. I will do that. And it is the most amazing amount of fun anyone can have Monday to Friday. You know what I mean? So that's what I would suggest. So those two things, pull them together, work at it. It's not going to be easy.
No, Mqondisi, I love that. I so get fired up when you talk about that, because of I think it's on our, I'll tell you, I think it was on our one of this Monday motivation things that I've been doing. I think it was the third one, if I'm not mistaken. And then I was piggybacking on one of the things that one of my favorite teachers, Dr. Jordan Peterson, was teaching about. He was teaching about this thing of an orienting reflex. So you were saying that there is this internal GPS that we have that calls us to that which matters most to us. And then we should not ignore it. And which is exactly what you're saying, to say that this problem's like 10,000 things can go wrong around you, but there's a few ones that always like pull you, like like you can't miss it. You know what I mean? That's why when you start to speak about our affluence as a country and whatnot, and as a continent, that's why you get fired up as well, because of the problem means that much to you. So you can go to an extent of finding out more about what that thing entails, so to say. And I think it's important to focus on what matters to you, because of you will then have the energy, the momentum as well will be there of you wanting to know more about that specific thing. Because of, like you were making an example of Lionel Messi and competing against David Beckham in his free kicks, right?
I'm just not that committed.
You're not gonna do that. There's no way you'll be like, I heard this other time Cristiano Ronaldo somebody saying that like he does like 100 kicks or something like that, like back in the days. Like in practice, after practice was done, he will then do like about 100 free kicks. Like, come on, I don't think I'll ever do that. You know what I mean? So I think that's very key. I think that's very important to advising someone who's about to start a business. But what if they say that, MQ, I hear you, but the things I'm passionate about, there's no money in them. Are they wrong to think that way, or they have not really well investigated whatever it is that they do? Or like maybe that's the question I'm trying to ask. Like, what if somebody thinks that the opportunities that can be unlocked in the things that they are passionate about, they don't have that, good, call it what, like economic, remuneration. as other things.
So one of the things that I would say is that people need to expose themselves to those things, right? If you have that thought, you are wrong. It's as simple as that, right? So think about it this way. Let's talk about a couple of billionaires, right? So there are, 5 or 6 centi-billionaires in the world?
Sure.
All right?
Sure.
So Bernard Arnault is one of them, right?
Yep.
He's the chairman and CEO of LMVH. So,
LMVH, I've never heard
yeah,
of.
Louis Vuitton,
Louis
Moet,
Vuitton.
Hennessy. It's the largest luxury brands group on earth. They own things like Louis Vuitton. They own, look at all of these things escape me. Moet Champagne. They own just a whole ridiculous number of
he
luxury
owns that
brands.
network.
Yeah, all right. And he's worth $100 billion.
Yeah.
Okay, so just think about that. Here's the thing about him. He doesn't sell a single thing, not one, that somebody needs. Nobody on earth needs a Louis Vuitton handbag. Not one.
Wow.
Also, by the time that they get to Louis Vuitton, they probably have 40 other bags. All right? Just think about that. It's not a need.
Not at all. Not at all.
The people who are buying Moet Champagne, it's not as though they didn't have access to Valpre. I can't overstate this enough that there is nothing that he sells that anybody needs.
Wow.
He sells only things that people want. I can't. People who are focused only on need are not living, right? This is, and it's not just him. It's not just him, right?
Yeah.
All right, because that's the world's that's the world's largest luxury goods group. Johann Rupert runs Richemont. You know what I mean? So Mont Blanc and IWC and Van Cleef and Arpels and Cartier and all of that. No one needs a watch at all. At all.
Yeah.
Everyone's got cell phones that can tell the time.
Yeah.
Time has become so ubiquitous, no one needs a watch. And yet this guy sells billions and billions and billions and billions of things that people don't need. Not only that, there's another guy, Francois-Henri Pinault.
Yeah.
He also runs the third largest luxury goods group in the world, right? They own Bottega and Veneta, they own Gucci, they own all of these types of things. Just think about that. People are making billions upon billions upon billions, selling things that people don't need. So besides need, there is the ability to thrill and delight people. Right?
Wow.
So life is tough enough that people need levity. They need the beautiful. They need the humorous. They need the light. They need the wonderful. They need the things that make life worth living, right? And if you think there's no money in that, you're not paying attention. What on earth is a musician doing with hundreds of millions of dollars? All right? There's no need there, but there is nourishment in life, right, when you have those things. So if you think that there's no money in those things, I would say that you need to rapidly expose yourself to the people who are making money in that place, right? Many of them. I mean, the best YouTubers in the world is like, what, an 8-year-old kid named Ryan?
Yeah, playing
There's a video game guy named PewDiePie or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And there's people
I think it's doing Minecraft or something like that.
just quickly go there. You know what I mean? And spend time there and understand in what way you're wrong. All right? But be very clear. Perish the thought. Like, if you can do that as quickly as possible, then the opportunities open up to you.
No, I'm going to say, I don't think people are aware of how much they sabotage themselves based on that idea. And I think...
And it might be an exposure thing as well, right? So if you've never been exposed to that, you know what I mean?
So, yeah.
But I mean, if you have the internet and you stumble upon the show, right? This is the moment that says there is money and abundance and availability for every pursuit in life today, being 2021.
Love that.
Whatever the problems are, it's not that the money is not there.
Okay. So then, my question will be then, if I am that kid who, I don't know, like whatever trade that they choose to do, it be they want to do fine arts or the person want to be a fashion designer, whatever the case may be, or they want to cook, you know what I mean? and they're like, yeah, but you know, being a chef or cooking, it's like it's an industry that is difficult. I can't be rich from that and whatnot. So what are the things that they need to know in order for them to be aware of the economic opportunities that they can unlock from these things that they do?
But that's what I was saying. They really need to expose themselves. You can do that by reading.
Expose yourself.
Yeah.
Yes,
All right.
I get what you're saying.
So there's
just go to the trend. Go out there. Do what needs to be read. Research the people that are doing it,
and also there are so many things. I mean, there are so many things. You know what I mean? Like, I can tell you who were the first 17 Dutch guys to start the first publicly listed company. You know what I mean? It's called the VOC, or which became the Dutch East India Company. What was the problem? What were they aiming at? Why were the 17 of them? What did they do? How did they do? How much they returned? You've got to. It must be clear that the amount of information out there, right, is incredible.
But I can say that's a Mqondisi thing. Like that guy is a thinker. That guy is smart. This guy is intelligent.
But I sit with people who know everything to do with food, and you're just like amazed. You're like, who knew? So I'll give you an example. Right?
Yeah.
One of the top 50 chefs in the world, right? And I had the privilege of the privilege of meeting this guy, right? He's a Brazilian guy.
Yeah.
All right. Speaks in broken English, you know what I mean? Speaks very fluent Portuguese, obviously, but I mean, he's made the effort to learn English. And I mean, this guy will literally blow your mind with the concept of food as a medium. I'll give you two stories, right? Just so you can understand what I mean.
Yeah.
He says, imagine, his name is Alex Atala. He goes, imagine you're doing a fast and you are hungry. And now you come down the hill and you can smell the roasting meat. The flesh is calling you, and you can and it's been so many days since you've eaten, and you can smell the smell, and you come down, and as you come down to the roasting flesh, you are so hungry and you are just so ready for the roasting meat, and then you figure out it is the flesh of a human being. See, so what he does is he takes the idea that you're fasting, takes the smell of meat, and then flips it on you at the end and goes, but if you found out as a human being, immediately it goes from hunger and anticipation to disgust. But then he goes, imagine I tell you that people, they don't like the vomit. They find it disgusting. But when I tell you that people like it when it is the form of the honey, it is the predominant way in which human beings have enjoyed the sweetness. You're like,
what?
Just think about that. So again, he'll flip it from you from a different angle. He'll go, I'll take you from this idea of anticipation, right? And turn you off with disgust because I've understood you so completely through the medium that I use, which is food, right? And then I can also turn it around and go, I can take from a place of disgust where you're like, vomit is the worst thing that a chef should ever bring up. But then highlight the fact that bees' vomit is the predominant way of sweetness that has been, brought into the world. I'm just saying, there's a level, think about the application of understanding that. Yeah. When you're standing at home and you're cooking, right, you don't have those dimensions in mind. But I'm just saying to you that this is what makes him who he is. Wow. And it's not the only thing, right? And, he exposed himself to understanding your view of what it is that you find attractive, enticing, and also your attitudes about it and what informs them, and he can manipulate them through his medium of cooking. And it's an amazing thing. So I raise that to say that this is someone, again, who's at the edges of the distribution.
Exactly.
Understands it so clearly and so completely that he's able to manipulate it. That's the guy that you have to learn from. If you want to be a chef that provides a tasting menu that is, present a theater, that is presented through the medium of food, those are the guys that you have to expose yourself to. And let me tell you, those guys, I mean, they're not struggling.
No.
People happily are like, take my money.
Yeah,
Take it.
sure.
There are your dollars.
Not even close. Because of you, like you brought a very beautiful side to this, to say that the actual trade, like let's say the trade is it's food, like I'm a chef, right? What makes you special, or what makes you great, what makes you a high performer in that, like in that fraternity, so to say, it's not necessarily the food that you cook, but more to do how you deliver and how you articulate what you do, and then to whom, and then how you are delivering, like the whole experience that you are actually presenting to people who are who are your customers or your clients, so to say. So it's not only about the...
Exactly. But here's the thing. So let's learn from Alex, right? Alex Itala, this chef.
Yeah.
He understands people so well, so deep, that he knows how to disgust them, and he knows how to delight them,
yeah.
and he knows how to do that at will. In 3 minutes, he can move you from disgust to delight, and from delight to disgust.
Yeah.
And that ability, it's that thing, right? It's so far beyond cooking.
Gotcha.
Right?
Far beyond cooking.
But he understood the person, understood the individual. And this is what we also try and do to our clients. We go, we'll understand that person so well and so deeply that by the time that you show up, you'll be able to manipulate the things that you have at your disposal in order to delight them, in order to appeal to them, in order to be of value to them, in order to be of service to them. And that's the key, is that you have to understand the person so well first, that then all the other things, they're like secondary.
So thank you so much again, like Mqondisi, for answering like the question that I asked, because I believe that there is someone out there who's trying to make these things work, and then either from being ill-informed, they end up giving up on whatever it is that they wanted to do, whatever it is that they're passionate about, and they will start to do businesses in fields that they are not interested in. And as a result, then they lose the drive on the way. They can't pick up the momentum and so on and so forth. But just talking about it, like while we're still there, right? Let's talk about someone who says, okay, I get it. There is so much for me to learn or to know about the specific thing. Let me explore more so that I can find opportunities, like economic opportunities in the things that I'm passionate about. I get that. And then, but the person will be like, yeah, but I told you, Mqondisi, I'm from Hamashashani. There are lack of resources, I cannot listen to, what's the Brazilian guy you spoke about? What's
Alex Itala.
Yeah, Alex, right? I don't have data to listen to Alex, I only have 5 megabytes, whatever the case may be. So what would you say, would you say that like that is a relevant excuse? Relevant is not a good word, but is that an adequate excuse? Or that's not an excuse? Or no, for sure there are such limitations.
So I don't let me say it this way. The fact that there might be limited resources in Mashashan, where is it?
Hamashashan, yeah.
Hamashashan.
Yeah, sure.
Might be true and valid. Truly. You know what I mean? It might actually be the case. So acknowledging it for what it is, the question is, what are we going to do about it?
What are you going to do about it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are hundreds of people who are in exactly the same place, who find a way to make it. So when you think about that, so there's a guy who I wanna maybe recommend. So to this guy who's got the exact same thing, he must get hold of everything he can get his hands on from a guy called Naveen Jain.
Naveen Jain.
Yeah, Naveen Jain takes $5, and he's from India and he goes to America. And one of the things that he's done now is he's built a space company. Wants to go to space, and
like
he wants
space.
He wants to go to the moon and he wants to mine
like
on the moon.
Elon Musk space.
Yeah. So he wants to do mining on the moon. All right. So remember we spoke about some of the problems, right? So this is an amazing. So this is an example of what we're talking about. He goes, mining on the Earth bad idea. Everyone's trying to stop it. And we've already spoken about that the DRC's got like the largest embarrassment of riches underground. But now mining it doesn't seem to be an amazing idea. But he's like, we can go to the moon. As far as he tells me, there's $16 quadrillion worth of minerals on the moon.
Wow.
And he's like, no problem mining it. He's like, even on Earth, if there are some things called rare Earth elements, they're not called rare moon elements. They're not called rare space elements, right? So this is a guy who took $5, right? Put it in his pocket. He's in the place now, right, of being a billionaire and is able to build a company that's going to go to the moon to do some mining. All right. So the excuse is not for me to judge as being valid or not. I'm going to assume for the moment that it is. And I'm going to assume that it's valid. I'm going to assume that it's true. I'm going to assume that it's something that is a genuine obstacle. Having said that, though, what is to be done about it? I'm a strategist, right? So constraints being what they are, what shall we do? What we should do is still pursue exposure to the Naveen Jains. What did he do, right? Most of the people who don't have money, right? So I start a business, right? When I started my business, I had no capital.
Yep.
So I went to people and I said, right, I can cause you to think in such a way that you will have an incredible amount of money. It'll be cheaper than all of your other options. And when you make that money, can you share a portion of it? And there are crazy people who took me up on the offer. This is how we sit here today.
Yeah.
I didn't get capital, right? So most people who make money go and sell the dream. I was like, if you share your problems with me, I will bring a perspective to them that will make you rich, make you richer, take you further, accelerate towards your goals. Make sure that you exceed your objectives. Give them to me now, right?
Wow. Yeah.
That's what people who don't have the money do, because money follows value and value follows service. So how can I serve you is to help you with the problem. All right? But you have to get somebody to give that to you first. So one of the things is, what are the things that you can provide of value? What are they? And go and offer them to the people who have the money to give you in exchange. So I'm not saying excuse is not valid. I think particularly in the African continent, excuses generally are valid. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to go, oh, well, the first guy I've seen with a valid excuse. Not true. What I am saying, though, is that what do you need to do about it? You just need to go, right.
What can you do about it? Yeah.
Valid as it is, true as it is, constraining as it is, there are still people who are able to get beyond it. Who are they? Expose yourself to them. You know what I mean? And he'll tell you lots of stories in Naveen Jain about, when his resources run out, or, it's beyond the scope of his ability or the scope of his capital base. And learn from them. Use those experiences. Another person, perhaps, to do that, Jesse Itzler.
Jesse Itzler.
Yeah, so his wife is Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. So his wife's a billionaire.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So if you forget Sarah Blakely's husband, he's got amazing stories. Amazing stories. I'm trying to be compliant here because you asked me about things that I'm deeply passionate about, right? Yes. So this is your fault in part, but I could tell you lots of stories that Jesse has, right? About how he's never been on a private jet before. He flies on a private jet, everything goes from black and white to color in his world. And he's like, right, I'm starting a private jet company as soon as he lands, because even if I fail, I get to fly on a private jet, all right? And he was trying to be a rapper. Gets a meeting with NetJets and they throw him out of the room. And they say, you didn't even get 1,000 on an SAT score. So I suppose you got like 40% in the trick. We're not going to give you our jets. And he starts one of the... So, amazing story. What did he do, right? Guy wanted to be a rapper. Wants to start a private jet company. Got no cash. Knows no one. His dad owns a plumbing supply business. He's not a well-known rapper. He wants to go into private jets. Doesn't have the cash. How did he do it? There's lots of those people. Naveen Jain, Jesse Itzler, and thousands like them. So expose yourself to that and learn from it, because, they've done something where they've thought about it in a different way and approached it in a different way, and it will help that person too.
It's like, I cherish this a lot. And then, guys, I'm going to tell you why this means so much to me. It is that like from Mqondisi's words, right? He is not discrediting the excuse. He's not saying the excuse is valid or not. What he's saying is that let's assume it is valid. There comes an important question. What are we going to do about it? Because we know that it being true, the excuse, or it being valid, the excuse, it's not going to change our situation. It's not going to change our circumstance. And then there are people who are actually in the same position that you are in, if not worse. But they've managed to actually make the most out of it, you know? And which reminds me of one of the things that Tony Robbins once taught about. He was talking about resources and being resourceful. You're saying there's a difference between the two, you know? He said the problem is not lack of resources, but people are not resourceful. And then when he spoke about being resourceful, he actually mentioned some of the things that he was mentioning. They talk mostly about, talk mostly to the thing you're talking about of vision. Because you need to have vision, you need to have a compelling vision. You need to have an aim of some sort for your life. You need to have some sense of awareness, like who you are, what is it that you want to do, what's important to you, and then to what extremes are you willing to actually fight for that, like for your turf, for the things that you want. And then that is actually being resourceful, because he said that if you are resourceful, you will find the resources. You know, and then I think he was on the money there. So then, I don't want to talk about excuses a lot because, I've met so many people who have like so many excuses. Like, they'll tell you that, oh, no, yeah, if I was not black, or if I was not born in this specific community, or if my mom was slightly rich, or maybe I had uncles who could plug me, if I had connections, like my best one, the connections. If I had connections, then. So my question is that, when you have a person who has such excuses, then being valid or not, but letting those excuses stop them from doing whatever it is that they want to do, is there hope for such a person? Or if there is, then what is it that we can do to help a person who's in that position?
So we spoke earlier about the fact that being able to diagnose these things is useful,
yeah,
but it's really preoccupied me, all right? Because I look at this continent of Africa, and everyone, lots of people describe poverty, they'll describe all sorts of things, and it's just not my view, all right? So I'll give you an example. I've been working on this problem for a very long time as to what is it? What is it exactly? You know what I mean? Like, I don't like people going, it's apartheid. Like, okay, fine.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I get it, but what is it about it?
Yeah, what is it about it?
What is, like, because, in order to design a solution, there's a level of specificity
that's required, yeah.
right? That's required in order for you to fashion a solution. So I'm not saying it's invalid or wrong. What I'm saying, for me as a practitioner, right, as a tradesman, as someone who uses tools, right, to fashion solutions,
Let's go to the granular.
Apartheid is like, meh. It's not useful. So what are the useful things? And one of the things that I think that is missing, and the one thing that I know to be true, even though I don't know it to be the whole truth, and even if I don't know that there are other truths, but there's one thing I can tell you with the greatest amount of certainty sitting here, is that those people, and millions and millions and millions of Africans on this continent like them, are not clear about who they are. And let me tell you a little bit more about that. Everyone goes, yeah, identity issues and all that, but so here's what I mean. I mean that I spend a lot of time speaking to people. I speak to audiences, mostly corporate audiences, mostly people who are accomplished, and mostly people who are gainfully employed. These are not the types of people that we think are unemployed, have no mission, have no whatever it is. These are employable people with skills, earning money, enough to pay a speaker to arrive and address them. When I tell them about how I see Africa, right, there's an interesting thing that happens in the room, all right? What happens is people who were there and were kind of slouching and, whatever it is, they start to sit up straight. They start to, because, so here's an interesting thing. Why don't we know in this country what happened in 1651?
I think in one of our private conversations, like you mentioned, before that era.
So one of the things is, there are lots of things that challenge me. There are lots of things that limit me. There are lots of things I'm working on. There are lots of things that we're trying to get over, right? But if I think, that people in 1200 were building dry masonry walls, right? Who look like me, who look like you, not far away from here, right? The wall stood for 800 years. Just think about that. No cement, no mortar, 6 meters wide at the base, 11 meters high. The monument goes without Bantu education, without Excel, without a calculator, without all the things you don't have. For 800 years, we will build something to tell you that you have it within you. Think about that. Think about that statement that reverberates through time. Yeah? There are, like, ever so often we dig up golden rhinoceroses. Like, just think about it. Who crushed a ton of rock? Who extracted the gold? Who fashioned it into, like, what? Or, like, I don't underestimate the extent to which I'm limited. I do what I can to compensate for it. I surround myself with great people. I read what I can. I have an amazing team that helps me and falls short where I'm weak and all of those types of things. But with all of those things, those people, without the benefit of the internet, without the benefit of reading and writing the way that we have today, without the ubiquity of information, without the ability to, sit in an air-conditioned room with electricity the way that we are, they were like, we are going to invent a way. Okay, so here's the thing. My pet irritation, right, is I hear the story of Shaka Zulu, right? And it's like, the guy was a warrior and he was whatever it is, and you know what I mean? And I'm like, but hang on, where are the commercial stories around this? This guy reinvented the stabbing spear. It's like, wait a minute. There's a Zulu Asolo metal that's happening here that no one's speaking about. Who's mining the iron ore? Right? Who's smelting it? Who's fashioning those spears? Like they fell out of the ground. Turns out, and well, it doesn't turn out because I haven't checked this, but the oldest mine apparently is the Ngwenya mine here in Eswatini. At least this is what the good people of Anglo tell me.
Wow.
All right, 40,000 years old.
Wow.
I'm just like, let's think about that for a bit. Let's pause there.
So interesting, yeah.
And go 1,000 years ago, people of greater limitation had figured out like gold smelting. Right? And they weren't smelting utility things. Clearly a rhinoceros is not useful in golden form.
It's true.
Think about the abundance there. And I'm going, these are the people that you are following 1,000 years later, 800 years later. The limitations that we have, such as they are, do not trump the ability for me to mine the ore, fashion the ore, turn it into something amazing, carry on with life, with no algebra, with no E equals MC squared, none of those. These things were done. And the environment does not bear the scars of them having been done the same way as we do them today. So let me, this is way too long and I apologize, but
no, we love this.
There are two metallurgists, Schmidt and Avery, who study the iron smelting that takes place in East Africa, Tanzania and the like, and this is where we think that the iron ore smelting influence also drops into Southern Africa, where they were smelting iron in a two-step semiconductor, right, which uses far less fuel than any of our current smelters and the smelters of the time. And they were able to heat it so much that they could smelt the ore in a single-step process, rather a two-step process, like their counterparts in Europe at the time. So like the Romans, say, or whoever it was. And just that fuel efficiency is something now today is called environmentally friendly, it's sustainable, it's green steel, it's whatever it is. This is what people were doing 2,000 700 years ago, you know, right here where we live. I make this point to say this. It is not that our constraints will go away, but that we're the type of people as Africans in the midst of those constraints to find a way to forge a way through and to do it in an environmentally friendly way. And this is what the world needs now, and this is what the world is asking us to do again. And I'd say to the people of Mashishan, right, who don't have the resources, is that they're cut from the cloth where people who also didn't have resources overcame those odds and were able to leave us an echo, leave us a manuscript, leave us a communication that says, even when you don't have the modern amenities and tools that others have, you're the type of person that comes from people who are nevertheless able to do it. And when I say that to people, something in them sparks and they never ask that question again. And so this is why I'm saying I'm not sure if it's the whole truth. I'm not sure if it it's certainly a part of the truth, because when people understand that about black African people from this continent with resource constraints, once they go around and figure that out and they see it for what it is, the question of I'm constrained never comes back again.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. And I think it speaks mostly to your self-awareness, a portion of what constitute or what compartmentalizes a high performer, so to say that, you know, that level of awareness, knowing that I'm cut from the same cloth as those, you know, like as those people who did the things that they did then with less resources, with, you know, with the world that was less technologically connected like the one that we live in today, but they still managed to do those things. That blows my mind. And I think this almost leads us to our closing. So our thing with high performance MQ, it is that we really want to change. I don't know if change is a good word, but anyway, we really want to change the mindset of people around things that are important, things that matter to them. So, like, in a sense that we'd want people to come to high performance, to have, like, you know, to go through interviews like the one that I have with you, so that they can learn and know that they are not limited the way they think they are. To know that, you know, there are these challenges, yes, but there are ways for them to overcome them. So that's the whole main thing, and to also educate them. Like I mentioned when I started, that Jim Rohn said that motivation is not enough. If you motivate an idiot, you have a motivated idiot, and that's not a good place to be in. So what I would like to find out from you, it is that, what do you think it is the best way to help people pay more attention to content and to things that we know, or that we have an idea that will actually start to help them have proper conversations going on in their heads, conversations that will actually lead them to finding more about themselves, finding more about the industries that they want to impact, and what do you think is the best way to actually, you know, put that message across, so to say, so that people don't focus only on tabloid content, so to say?
How to get people not to focus on tabloid content? That's a it's a tough one for me, right? So here's what I will say. I think that once people understand what they're capable of, I think that changes what people consume.
Oh.
All right. So
sure.
So
do you mind repeating that, please?
Yeah, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
once people understand what they're
Yeah.
capable of, it changes what people consume.
What they consume.
It's like there's a time.
Oh man.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. So let's assume that you go through a time where you're depressed for some reason, and your depression comes away because you realize
Yep.
that you could create a life that would make the tragedy of life worthwhile. When you do that, what happens is the life that you're living, right, is better than the life that you're dreaming.
Yes.
All right, and that's an amazing place to
That's
be.
the amazing place to be in.
All
yeah.
right, and so once people understand that, you probably find that they no longer need to distract themselves. All right, and they don't need to numb things. They don't need to, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
there's one person here out of maybe 10,000 who will be going, well, my thing. I'm deeply passionate about tabloid news, and I want to revolutionize
Yeah.
it, so I'm going to expose myself to as much tabloid news as possible, and great for that person. But there are a number of people who use tabloid news as a distraction.
As a distraction,
as
yes.
a numbing agent.
Definitely.
And that's true of tabloid news and many other things.
Many other
So I'm going to
things,
put
yeah.
that in the class of distractions. And go that if you're able to actually take the step to distill for you the things that will enable you to live the life where you no longer need tabloid news or distractions or, that whole class of aids, that's where you need to go, because then
Yeah.
genuinely, right, you'll be, I don't think there's anything wrong with tabloid news. I just think in my universe of options, it's a very poor one. Just because I have far better options.
Options, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's, I'm not denigrating it, but it's just like
Yeah.
the chances that it would hold the light to the things that I have available to me is almost nil, right? Because like I said to you, I'd much rather read another book, I'd much rather expose myself to another person, I'd much rather see another thing. You know what I mean? Every time I see somebody who's great in business, like, tell me the essence. Give me exactly what it is that you did to cause success. You know what I mean? Give me the oros, the concentrate, what it is that makes you what you want. I've got all of those things, and every time I see those things and hear those things, I come away and I'm just like, man, that was amazing.
This is
that
great.
was interesting. That Helps me. That what I mean. So like then I go tabloid news. And it's like
Okay.
so
what you're saying. Yeah.
that thing. I mean, there's a reason why David Beckham, Lionel Messi aren't reading the tabloid, right? It's because they find the football at the way that they do, at the level they do, more
Rewarding.
engaging than it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the
More
issue.
engaging, yeah.
So I think it's to add more options, and then those things will fall apart. You know what I mean? But I think my personal thing is that I think that African people are amazing, and I see them as seeds, and I think that the more enabling we can make the environment, the more that they will grow and germinate and show their potential. And sometimes you need to do that by moving.
Yes.
So
Should
what I
be
mean. A seed on
movement,
the
yeah.
shelf will think that it's useless.
Yeah.
But if it finds fertile ground,
It will definitely.
it will germinate and reach
Yeah.
its potential. So maybe there's some motion that's required.
Yes.
All right. So there's that, and whatever
I
that
love
fertile
that.
ground is for you, that's where we need to go. So that's maybe something else that I would offer, is that if you've done those other things, and then
Thank you so much.
if you've done those things, then you might think of yourself as a seed on the shelf.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
on the shelf, it's not going to grow, but in
Definitely.
fertile soil,
Definitely. So,
it
but
will reach its potential.
nonetheless, it's just that we can do this thing until tomorrow. But yeah, there is such a thing as time. Thank you so much for availing yourself, for being like on our channel. What I'm grateful for, guys, and that's why I'm looking in the camera, not looking at Mqondisi when I say this. What I'm grateful for it is that when you have someone of Mqondisi's stature, or agreeing to participate or to take part or to support something at its infant stages, to us, it's like everything. It's everything. It's everything, because a lot of people have a tendency of supporting things when it has grown wings and then it has, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's okay, But for someone to believe in what we do, somebody of your reputation, to want to do this, like you are very calculative in what you do. So for me, it means a lot. So thank you so much, my brother, for availing yourself. And then I really hope you're going to be our partner of insights, so to say, going forward. So this is the first of many, I believe. So thank you so much.
You're most welcome, and thank you to your audience, your viewers, and I hope both have found value.
Yeah. No, thank you so much.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you so much. Cheers, everybody.